synchronize. Lamps. 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 I have a lamp. The problem being, I needed more lamps, so I built a bunch of lamps. That's what this video is. It's showing off my collection of exotic lamps. Not exotic in that I purchased them from fancy exotic sources, but that I made them from things. So, the first lamp is actually one that we've seen before on this channel, back when I was still doing this channel. I stopped doing this channel because it was boring, essentially, which makes me wonder what I'm doing right now, but I'm not going to think that hard into it. They're all under my desk. Oh, look how my forehead's so wrinkly. Look at that. Wait. Oh, wrinkly. Smooth. Wrinkly. Smooth. Wrinkly. Smooth. Anyway. This guy. So you may recognize this guy from a previous invention in that it is a motion sensing lamp built into a concrete skull. Plugs into the wall and everything. It got a lot smaller. I made him tiny because all that extra stuff was unnecessary. So this guy normally sits on a shelf that's outside my bathroom that has like half my rock collection because I compulsively pick up rocks and shove them into my pockets and then put them in the dryer overnight, and the dryer is so loud. But anyway, the idea is that this guy lights up when I go to the bathroom. You may notice I shifted the light bulb to make it thinner, but where did I threw a thing? Power. There is a light switch on the side. In order to make this convincing, I'll hit that. So it's hard to see because the camera gives a lot of flare to it, but that is a light sensor on the bottom of the skull's mouth. So if I wait a second, it turns off. Now if I move in front of it, it turns on. So it turns on whenever I walk by. Also note, there's a switch in the back. So you notice within the circuitry, there is a large amount of just junk, and that basically the power connects to this exposed outlet. Don't stick your finger in there. When you go to flip the switch, you will get the volts. It connects to the plug that actually powers the light, but also this cell phone power supply. Back from when cell phones actually had big chunky plugs, it's like 5 volts. So that actually connects through to the eyeball, which is in the front, which I had just realized now has a corrosion problem. There's an LED in there that's 5-volt LED. It's pretty dim, but it's big enough to see. It's broken right now. So that one is not currently connecting. But there's a switch that should be able to turn off the big light and then turn on the small light. I just don't use it very often because I like being able to see brightly. 2. Fish light. What a way to start a sentence. Well, that's what it is. Fish light. It's a fish light. So there's explanation that explains why fish light. Fish light runs on 5 volts. Fish light has switch. Fish light has potentiometer to change fish level. Bright fish. Dim fish. Fish. Almost no fish. This thing's basically a really bulky night light. And you say to yourself, well, what actually is this thing? So, I was originally doing this for a long-term project where I was trying to create a clock that would take a clock and then project it from a directional source of light. The problem being that this isn't a good directional source of light because the actual source of light within the system is a bunch of Harbor Freight flashlights all wired together into a single directional light cannon that just shines forward. So if you were to pull this fish off, it would be a bunch of flashlights pointed in one direction, which, I mean, you could just have that be a weird lamp. That sound is my computer heating up. which must mean I'm being productive, because clearly my computer thinks I am. It's a problem with these slim computers, the modern ones. They heat up so much, and they just need to constantly vent. Like that thing will just run continuously forever. The fish portion of the fish light is held onto the front, so this glassy thing that it's on is a diffusion material that is meant for fluorescent lights in schools and such. So you put it over, and it takes really bright directional light and de-directionalizes it. The fish is a plastic fish from like a job lot type store. Have you ever been to Ocean State Job Lot? Go to the Ocean State and find it. It's a nice store. Sells a lot of weird stuff. Like weird surplus retail, basically, is what lot stores are. It's stuff that you go to sell. Why is that spot hot? Oh, coffee. Neat. Okay, so it's a plate. It's meant to be a serving plate for seafood. It's plastic. It looks like a fish. I bought it because it's a fish. I'm like, oh, I'm going to put a light behind it. Didn't know the light would be like 2 feet long, so that might get updated. Directional light. I actually did build 2 directional lights. The other one works, but I abandoned the project before I got to use it, so now it's the light that I keep next to my bed. This one used to be that light, but now it's the far more aesthetically pleasing, this light. You can see it's made of wood, and there's a light switch. Couldn't find a light switch cover that fit it. So it has a cord. Again, these are like the cords I make myself out of like random parts. So what's weird about this one is that I bought this light bulb because it's meant to be a highly directional LED light bulb. It shines in one direction. So the problem with the fish light source for creating shadows is that it's multiple flashlights which are all slightly deviant. So they fire different deviant beams and it produces too many shadows. This is one light bulb which actually does produce just one shadow because it's just one source. The problem, that's not a normal light size. It's little. I think these are meant for microwaves. Although I don't usually microwave lights. Everything I own has a corrosion issue, so that's corroding a little bit. So I had to buy special fixtures and drill that in. Fortunately, it's small enough that I could drill it into this random piece of wood that I found on the side of the road. That is actually 2 pieces of wood because I didn't have one long enough. Every screw in this is different because they're all from things that didn't have screws formerly. Like those are just nails because I ran out of screws. But it's nice and not a fire hazard at all. As you can see, the light switch is not pokeable from the outside. It's an effective light. Wow, my glasses make it look like I have huge eyebrows. Look at that. Ooh, eyebrows. Oh, ow, ow, ow. Okay, I can't see. But I keep that next to my bed so that when I go to bed, I can just find the light and then turn it off. Ooh, that's on, not off. So that's a nice little light. That's very efficient. That's one of my most successful lights I've ever made. It's pretty too. So the next one, aha, I know. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to do was make an actual lamp, like a lamp that does lamp things. So this takes a little bit of explanation. That's a lamp. It's only slightly off kilter, so I think if I turn it the other way, it'll look like it's straight. Oh, look at that. It looks like I did it correctly. So what is this? So first of all, this black thing is spray painted concrete. That is a big brick. It is then connected, because see there's a hole in the bottom. I didn't drill the hole, it was cast to have a hole that I could connect this big old rod to. Why this rod? I had an extra rod, and it just so happens that the rod fits into one of these ceramic light holes. Granted, I could stick my finger in there and get a shock, just don't do that. The wire is not wire, exactly. If you look closely, you'll see it's transparent. Why is it transparent? Because half of this is bare copper wire that I didn't want bare because I'd get my hand stuck in it. So I covered it in fish tank airline tube and made it go into this little wooden thing, which is a cute little wooden box that I have embedded in the concrete when the concrete was originally cast. So it was pour this concrete, that's why it's all lumpy. It was poured in a paper mold. There was a clay ball in the bottom to produce the hole. And then there was also a little wooden box that was embedded. That box has the electric circuits, which is just this tiny little toggle switch, which is rated for the voltage. It is also a little box where you could potentially store something very small, like a an SD chip would fit in there and be fine. It is also held in with screws that are Triskelion screws, which I have a lot of. I don't know why, don't know how I got them out of it. They're screws that have like if you drew lines between the points of a triangle inside the triangle, so like, very hard to find a screwdriver that unscrews that. I had my brother, Jungle Jim, gave me special bits that do all the weird security screws so I can take apart bathroom stalls from the inside, because I don't like getting trapped in a bathroom stall, because then you have to get on the floor and go under, because American stalls, we do have that for escape purposes, because those things get stuck a lot. Well, basically, if you wanted to get that little door off, you would either need to work real hard or have a special screwdriver. The lamp wire itself, interesting story behind this. Again, it's another one I made, but notice it's clear, which is cool. I buy a lot of this because in Home Depot, they lock up the wire now because people kept stealing it because for some reason getting like $7 off of a piece of copper is worth something to somebody. So it's locked, but I'm not going to find somebody to unlock the wire just to get a little bit of lamp wire. Lamp wire is nice because it's small and they keep it near the front of the cage. So my very unusually thin raccoon hands can get into the cage and grab just the lamp wire. I can't get the big ones, but I can grab the little ones and pull them out with nobody noticing, aside from the camera, but they don't stop me, so I figure I'm not breaking the law. Anyway, this is a regular lamp. It takes regular bulbs. It doesn't have a shade, but it does have a bulb. You notice that's a weird looking light bulb. Glass. Don't do it with this what you think would do with this, which is insert it into water. Because it will short. It is a regular tubular light bulb. This is a regular, like, Edisonian style light bulb with LEDs, but it says great value on the side, so you know it's a great value. That adds extra lampage to the lamp. It screws into the top, which I know you can't see, but hold on. Okay, the lamp is not actually that tall. It's sitting on a little chest of drawers that holds my screws. So there is a story behind why I need this lamp. So, sound. I cannot wake up to sound. If you play an alarm clock sound, it freaks me out. I wake up too suddenly, and I have this thing where if I'm ever put under the slightest emotional stress, my body goes limp and I can't move. So if I have an actual alarm clock, it goes off, and then I'm paralyzed for a few seconds before I can actually turn it off. It's very uncomfortable. So what I do is I rigged up one of those little light turner on or offer timers to this lamp. Used to be that lamp, but it's now this lamp. And it turns on at the same time every day. An interesting thing is that when a light turns on, you wake up, like, uncontrollably. Even weirder is that when a light wakes you up instead of a sound, it gets embedded in your head, and you can't stop waking up at that time. You'll always wake up at that time when this light turns on. They don't get hot because they're LEDs. It's this weird yellow color, though, which I don't like, but it is nice in the morning to not be blinded by super bright colors. So there's now one more set of cool things that I built that are not strictly speaking lamps, but they're rather... I'm itching my ankle and it's like my leg is trying to go. Aedes aegypti is a species of mosquito that likes to bite human feet and ankles. Now, there's two devices that are lamp controls. The first... Almost everything I build looks like a box made out of wood. So this is a nice device. As you can see, there's a box. So it contains on its surface 2 switches and on its side 2 outlets. The device in question, I actually even grounded it, although I only had lamp wire, so it's actually 3 or 2 wires randomly stuffed through these connectors onto a big ground pole plug made out of metal that's not tightened down properly, so it's not the safest, but it's safe enough. I mean, it's one of those things where as long as you don't touch it too much, it's fine. Ooh, but I don't like sticking something metal into an outlet. Ooh, boy, that's scary. Fit in there. Why no fit? Okay, I didn't die. Neat. So, These are two switches, and actually they connect to two indicator lights. It's hard to see unless the lights are off because they're not very bright. But they're little neon lights. So those are actually in parallel with the outlets, in that if both switches are off, like right now, there's no connection. This would turn everything off. One switch turns on one side and one light, the other switch turns on the other side and the corresponding light, which means I can select from one outlet to two outlets. And you say, well, why is that important? Oh, supernova. So the issue is I live in an apartment that kind of has an older system of how it does lights, in that there's no ceiling lights. The lights are connected to outlets in the wall. So when I flip a switch, a light turns on. But it's just one light that's plugged into whatever outlet that switch is connected to. I want multiple lights for multiple things. I want to be able to switch between a daylight and a night light. So I need to be able to switch those. I need to be able to switch between two light sources depending on my mood. So, in order for this to make sense, this isn't the light I normally have connected to this. I normally have it's basically one of these bright shop lights under a glass table. So it ignites and it's really bright. I don't exactly want to turn that on at 2 in the morning when I hear people crawling around downstairs disturbing my plates. Turns out it's not people, it's a lot of mice. Oh, this plug actually is bicolor because it was severely corroded and I washed it with vinegar. So, you can see it does connect to the outlet. I can turn it on and off. The other thing, I'll connect this lamp, which is an ordinary lamp. However, I have another device. This. You say, why are you going to connect a switch to a switch? It's actually not a switch connected to a switch connected to a switch. It's a switch connected to a switch connected to a switch connected to a wall switch. It's a lot of switches. This is entirely superfluous. Doesn't do a thing. Well, I mean, that's loose. That's not good. It's fine. It doesn't need to be tight. Because it turns out that this is a switch. You press it and it turns it on and off. But more importantly, it's a knob. It's a dimmer switch. This is how a dimmer switch should never, ever, under any circumstances, be installed. They are not meant for this. This is actually somewhat dangerous. I need to get a screwdriver and tighten this. So the problem being that dimmer switches don't work well on most things. Really only lights. And really only certain lights. Which is why you shouldn't have it connected to a wall outlet. It should be connected to a permanent light fixture. Because if you put this on a motor, you're going to explode. And really, to be honest, it's only recently we can use these. Those little squiggly fluorescent lights don't work with dimmers most of the time because they have a tiny transformer, and changing that LEDs don't mind. They're built to be potentiated. So this doesn't have an indicator light, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it into this, and then I'm going to plug it into my ordinary lamp. I'm then going to face the dimmer toward me slightly so that I have the ability to control it, and then reach over and flip off the headlights. So the point is, if it's a time when I need to see brightly, I have this box connected to, I connected to the real bright light. Otherwise, the night light, which is on a dimmer. I can make it dim or bright. Dim, bright. Ooh. What is that green? Oh, wait. So what's that weird green light? And that's, I always have my mouse pointer pointed green so that I can see it. So I can change this. Red is an interesting color because it's spooky. But more importantly, red doesn't really disrupt your night vision. That's why you use red when you go out at night, because if you look into a red light and then you turn around and look, it doesn't mess up your ability to see in the dark. It also doesn't really turn on the melatonin system in your brain that wakes you up. In case you didn't realize what melatonin actually is it's a hormone produced by the pineal gland in response to light, or rather darkness, that maintains circadian rhythm. So when you're exposed to light, your brain activates a hormone that says, oh, wake up, smell the thrash. When you're in darkness, it activates the melatonin and says, hey, it's dark, you should probably sleep right now. That's why they sell it in those gummies that actually are entirely placebo effect. They don't do squat. What you should do is just drink coffee before bed. It lets you sleep extra vigorously. I dream so hard when I have coffee. I've actually started dreaming when I'm awake now, which is interesting. But that said, I built a system of lamps, mainly out of wood and screws, and none of them caught on fire, so I consider this a great success, smashing even. Other than the corrosion issue in that one, which will need to be fixed at some point. But I don't like these videos going too long, even though this one's gone way too long. Behold my lamps. End video